I gave myself a terrible shock this year. 2018 was actually the 30th year of my career at work. I've been at work 30 years, I couldn't believe it. The first 15 of which, site manager, site engineer, project manager, a little bit like Susanna's story actually, it's very, very similar. The last 15 years in environmental management and now corporate sustainability leadership. I spent 23 years at Balfour Beatty, which was where I did my background in engineering and site management. And I joined the Canary Wharf group 7 years ago to be environmental manager on the walkie-talkie project, which I did notice was featured in one of the slides earlier. Since then, I've worked together with the group and built a team of 9 sustainability professionals, and we're really the catalysts in the business to try and lead this change that we're all talking about. You know, we're all talking about change so much. What is it about change? So I want to start with our definition of sustainability, right? And you'll be all delighted to know I'm not going to give you another corporate definition of sustainability. We've had enough of it. We've had enough of what sustainability means to us. But I am going to say what sustainability means to us. I have to do that. It's quite simply making it real, making it happen. We've all seen the definitions. We've all seen social, environmental, economic. That's fine as a description, but it's not getting us anywhere. The best description of sustainability was the guys coming back from the moon photographing planet Earth. You know, the last photograph was in 1972, that amazing picture. I don't need to have a slide because you'll all have it embedded in your memories. It's the most reproduced photograph on planet Earth, and it is planet Earth. Isn't that amazing? That single one photograph of the astronauts returning from the moon in 1972, a single shot and a single image before the era of digital photography and, you know, stitching it all together. And that was back in 1972, and that's credited as being the sort of birth of the environmental movement. And here we are, 46, nearly 50 years later, still getting to grips with environmental issues. You know, what on earth's going on? So we decided that we didn't want any more definitions. We were just going to do something about it. We were going to try and make sustainability real. And the image that I chose to start the presentation off, and the colleague that was sitting next to us was asking about Canary Wharf and who are Canary Wharf. I'm going to come to that in a minute. But the image that I've started my short presentation off is probably one that I think is the most important thing, the most important asset that we have in the built environment. It's people, it's us. We are the ones that are going to drive this change. We are the ones that are going to get involved and do something different and take this challenge on. So I've chose this picture because this was the start of our public-facing campaign that we ran in the malls a few years ago. It was called Making Sustainability Real, where we got people to get involved and pledge. I'll tell you a little bit more detail about that in a moment. So I'm going to basically take you on a 30-year journey in the next sort of 15 or 20 minutes or so. And to do that, I'm going to explain who we are, what we do, and where we're going. And I think one thing I've learned being at Canary Wharf for the last 7 years is that Canary Wharf is like a mini city. It's like a mini microcosm of the built environment. And when I compare it to me past in Balfour Beatty when I worked for a main contractor, the main contractor, their mantra was, you know, we're the most important thing in the construction sector. We manage the projects and we drive the projects. And one thing I've learned is that is important, and I'm not going to take that away from main contractors. And I can't say this because I was one for 23 years. But I really think that one of the issues that we've got, one of the problems that we've got as a sector, is that we're not joined up enough. My time at Canary Wharf has helped me see that we're one team there. We're a designer, a developer, an investor. We're a constructor. We have Canary Wharf Contractors, our in-house construction business, who are a member of Build UK. But we're also a facilities manager and an operator. We run arts and events. We have 200 free events every year, ranging from paddle tennis through to squash, through to the Remembrance Art Trail that we've just seen. So it is an amazing place. But if I take you back to the start of it, here we see, I've just come from a presentation this morning talking about circular economy. There was no economy here. There was nothing. There wasn't even a linear economy. The Docklands fell into decline in the 1970s. Massive unemployment, not just in Poplar and on the Isle of Dogs, but all of East London and other cities around Europe where inland ports were now redundant because of containerisation. But our story is Canary Wharf. I think sometimes when we try and envisage change and how things have developed, just try and imagine the vision and the imagination and the innovation and everything else that we've talked about today, the passion, the ingenuity, to take this to this. It's quite incredible to think that we've built a mini city. And if anyone's unsure, everyone thinks Canary Wharf is just that big pointy building in the middle. I'm going to step off the stage. Canary Wharf is this central hub here, this central axis. It's a nearly 100-acre business, retail, public realm district. It receives 120,000 workers. People come to work here every day. It sits on top of 5 separate retail zones. 50,000 visitors come each day to shop. It's an amazing place. It's not just about banking. The banks and the finance sector represents only a third of our commercial tenants. The next biggest single sector of tenants is technology, media, and telecoms. So the future of communication, the future of business. The last third is a kind of a mix-up of everything else. We've even got a university. UCL have their university campus on the 38th floor of 1 Canada Square. But the most exciting thing for us is that we're moving into residential, and although there's been residential built all around the wharf for the last 30 years, for the first time Canary Wharf Group entering the residential market. And you can see the prominent building here at the front of the image is Newfoundland, which is got the diagrid and the tower cranes. There's going to be 800 residential units in there. That's going to be a private rental sector building. It's going to be retained as Canary Wharfs and managed. So it's a big change. So we're going through some changes as well. We aren't just sticking to the same business model. We're finding new markets and new ways of doing things. But of course, we're looking at it here at the iconic level, and we have a profile and a reputation for building places like this. But when you zoom down to street level, it's on a very personal level as well. One of the things that we sort of pride ourselves is our high levels of customer service, and we manage the estate really with great ownership. We take a great deal of care to deliver this experience and this place for people to enjoy. And here we are in Jubilee Park. That's a green roof. So got to get the link in there to roofing, but that is actually one of the biggest green roofs on the estate. And it's a fact that the roofs on the commercial buildings, they make up the biggest collection of green roofs in the UK. So quite an interesting statistic there. So we are, Canary Wharf Group, fully integrated cityscape developer, constructor, estate manager and landlord. And it's this ownership and it's this integration. I mean, that image then just nicely shows what we do. We build them and then we manage them. But these buildings are huge, I mean, 1 Canada Square, there's 10,000 people turn up to 1 Canada Square every day. I think there's about 150 separate tenant companies in 1 Canada Square. This building that's in construction is 25 and 33 Churchill Place. 6,000 people will be housed in these buildings. So when we put our efforts into, you might have heard of BREEAM or Code for Sustainable Homes, which is what we're doing in the residential units, we really have the opportunity to influence positively all of the users of our estate. And this is what I was saying at the start of the talk. We see the tenants as being king. The people who come to our estate and occupy our buildings, those are our customers. And I don't think that's a bad philosophy to have as a sector. If we started thinking, I must challenge you, sir. You said in your talk, you referred to the customer as Mrs. Miggins. Was that just a joke? Please tell us that was a joke.
That's a joke.
Great. Phew. We see our customers as being the most important part of the process. And it's very important to us to make sure that the experience that the customers have is a good one. They're going to vote with their feet. We have to provide buildings and places that they want to keep coming back to. And these generations that Susanna talked about, absolutely spot on. We've got to provide places that cater for that market. So there's our definition of sustainability. What's it delivered? Just some statistics. The 1,200 group employees look after a daily population, as I say, of 120,000. We've achieved zero waste to landfill in our managed areas. These slides are old now. It's actually for the 9th consecutive year. I think it was in 2017, we invested 3 million in community projects and activities. We have another element which is quite important to us is our energy supply and the power that we run the estate on. We've invested in renewable electricity, and we've been purchasing renewable electricity since 2012. So the estate, our managed areas, runs on renewable energy. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a little while. But the economic impact of Canary Wharf is absolutely massive. I mean, the two sort of key figures here that I just want to focus on, the 1.59 billion that we've generated for the local SME community. It's not just the fact that we've spent that in the local supply chains. We've invested our time and resources in building up the local supply chains. A lot of the businesses that are in East 14, Tower Hamlets, have then gone on to deliver other projects, the Olympics being one of them. So we've been a catalyst not just for the growth of the estate, but the growth of the businesses in that area. So, what do we do? Okay, this is the woo-woo bit. This is where I move out of my comfort zone as well. I don't know if you've ever seen this model. Please don't ask us to pronounce that, because with this Northeast accent and the Japanese word, I'm just going to get so lost. But it is worth sharing that the Japanese have a concept meaning a reason for being. You hear a lot of businesses and a lot of companies talking about purpose and about what's their reason for existing. And if you actually look at these elements here, you mentioned these this morning. I was pleased to hear you talking about love and the passion that you have for your work. If we can find a way to not just personally but as a business as well, to do what we love, to do what we're good at, to do what we can be paid for, and actually align that with what the world needs, maybe that's not a bad place to start. Maybe that's actually not a bad model for sustainability and something that could draw us together as a sector. Just bear that in mind. So what sort of things do we do? Let's just canter through some of these mini case studies. So biodiversity. In terms of alignment, we can't break the law. We've got to protect the biodiversity. Yeah, that's law. We don't want praised for that. We're doing that anyway. But the way we see things at Canary Wharf, we use legislation as a starting point, not an end point. So we've got to protect the flora and fauna. We've got to protect the biodiversity. So let's have a biodiversity action plan. Let's get ecologists in and tell us what to do correctly so that it's best practice. But let's make it a 10-year biodiversity action plan so we can drive some real changes. Now, we've been doing this for a lot of years. We haven't just started this year. So we've got quite a rich biodiverse ecosystem already. But if you remember that original picture, there was nothing at Canary Wharf. So we're building on what we're building and going forward. But let's not stop there. Why don't we celebrate the fact that we've got great biodiversity in an urban setting and help people, help our customers make the connection to nature in what a lot of people otherwise perceive as a harsh business district. So we run a wildlife photography competition at Canary Wharf, and it's only been running for the last sort of 2 or 3 years. We had 50 entries in 2015. Clearly they didn't think there was much wildlife, but that's grown, and we actually had 650 entries this year. I don't need any more photographs for our annual sustainability report. I've got some fantastic pictures coming out of that. But it's a great way to get people involved, and it's a great way to see beyond just the legislation and to, to give something back and to drive, interest in other ways. Building performance. So our commercial buildings, we obviously use BREEAM, and we push to get the highest rating we can. We've got the biggest concentration of green roofs in the UK. There's the Crossrail Roof Garden there. Energy efficiency. I just wanted to pause for a little bit on this one. This is something that will absolutely affect our supply chain. We've been purchasing renewable electricity since 2012. We're now members of RE100, which is Renewable Electricity 100 group. But we're not stopping there. We want to look at science-based targets. We want to understand what we need to do to run our business in line with the Paris Accord on climate change. So it effectively means that we've got to map out all of our emissions. So our Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions, we need to understand exactly what they are. Our Scope 3 emissions is our supply chain. That's you guys, ultimately. So your Scope 1 emissions are our Scope 3. So we need to know that you guys can do your part as well. So part of science-based targets is reaching out into the supply chain and working with the supply chain and getting the supply chain to understand what their impacts are too. So this is something that we're doing, and that more and more clients and contractors are going to be doing also. So that's something to bear in mind. We also do R&D projects. We've got the UK's first solar-powered bus shelter here, which doesn't generate a lot of electricity, but was a really good R&D project for seeing how we can integrate PV into a standard. It's actually a Marshall's system, a Marshall's shelter. So we actually, we did that piece of work and learned an awful lot from that. Breaking the plastic habit. This is our way of tackling single-use plastic on the estate. We've installed some fancy equipment, the deposit return scheme there, and where you put in your empty, I'm pleased to say there's no plastic bottles there. I've spotted one, there's a plastic bottle there. You kind of get like an eagle in these sort of places, but I've noticed that since Blue Planet, more and more places and venues are moving away from the plastic bottles. They don't like the shame of it all, so it's great to see so much class in here. But for people who want to deposit the bottles, there's a reverse vending machine there. And the water refill station, just something simple like that. People love it. They go in and they refill the water bottle. Why can't we have things like this on our sites? Why can't our construction projects also have, this is in the mall, this is in the public-facing area, but certainly these facilities could be housed on the construction projects as well, and we're looking at that. Resource efficiency, recycling. We actually have our own recycling facilities in the basement of Canary Wharf. So any waste that's generated, we're dealing with it there on the estate and actually hand picking and segregating it before it goes off. Responsible sourcing is something very, very important to us. We need to know clearly that we're not bringing illegal timber onto the estate. I mean, in the last sort of 7 years, we've used something like 18,000 metres cubed of timber, all of which has been FSC certified. We get all of our projects FSC certified, and even temporary works needs to be that as well. Concrete, we look at major materials to be BES 6001. So any of the bulky materials in our supply chain, again, we're looking for BES 6001 certification. Can't do a sustainability presentation without mentioning off-site, and I know some of you guys have touched on it today. It's absolutely the way forward for a whole number of reasons. Program, quality, actually for the BIM modelling as well, and for this notion of material banks. We like off-site because it's got that assurance. If you make a concrete column on site and do all the rebar on site, you don't have that design credibility that you might have from a digitized version that's done in a shed somewhere that's got all the actual accurate placement. Lang O'Rourke claim that they can provide elements with 25% less steel because of the accuracy of the placement. So just on materials alone, it's a good thing. And is it the future of construction? Are we going to see gigafactories like the Tesla one here superimposed somewhere in Surrey? I hope not, but who knows? I mean, we've got to think of change and what change is going to look like, and is it always going to be the same labour on site? Is it going to be elements that are produced off-site and brought in? Certainly developers and clients like that sense of surety and sense of programme. So we're driving it. It's not always appropriate, but it is certainly worth thinking about. So on that note, thinking of the future, where are we going? What does this mean to us? So we have a long-term sustainability strategy. We've set some ambitious sort of targets for 2030. We want to be SDG compliant, Sustainable Development Goals. Has everybody in the room heard of the Sustainable Development Goals? I'm sure you all have. Don't be shy. I'm sure you all haven't. Typical United Nations, they release these things called the SDGs, and one of the goals of the SDGs is that everyone on planet Earth will know what they are. So we've already ticked that box today in enlightening the National Federation of Roofing Contractors onto the SDGs. More and more, basically they've set a series of goals for nations to fall in line with, but more and more businesses are taking the SDGs and actually looking at them and saying, these are a really credible, that word again, aligned way of looking at sustainability. If we all address these, we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. More and more corporates and clients and businesses, as I say, are looking at the SDGs and looking for ways that they can be delivered. Might be a one to take a look at. That's the sort of thing we want to see in our supply chains, that there is an awareness of them, and that there's a willingness to collaborate and to join in and deliver the goals themselves. And importantly, any long-term aspirations just can't be delivered unilaterally. The only way that we do things in this sector is through long-term relationships and, importantly, long-term participation. You've just got to get involved. We're all here today. You guys have all got day jobs, you know. You don't spend your life going to conferences. I know I don't. I've got a day job, believe it or not. But the fact that we're all here today demonstrates one thing. It demonstrates leadership. It demonstrates that we want to participate and that we want to get involved. And that says such a lot when we're trying to deliver long-term sustainability targets. You just can't do it alone. The ones that I think on this slide here that we're involved in that I think might be particularly relevant to you guys are Supply Chain Sustainability School and Considerate Constructors. I would urge you to take a look at those and get involved in those in any ways that you can. Before I finish, which I'm coming to the end of my slides right now, I just wanted to share just a little story of our CEO. I'm here in the Institute of Directors. I couldn't resist but share this story. So probably 18 months ago now, I took that table with the long-term objectives and targets, where we want to be with sustainability by 2030. And I took that as a summary sheet with the draft of the annual sustainability report for Canary Wharf Group. And I made a really nice cover letter and I put that on the top. And I took it all to Sir George for him to sign it off. And I was expecting him to have a field day. I was expecting that red pen to run amok. I was expecting them to be slashing the targets and saying, you can't say this and you can't say that, Martin. How on earth can we commit to be zero carbon by 2030? Don't be ridiculous. Ad infinitum. And I was gobsmacked when the whole pack came back a couple of days later with only one change. And there it is there. You probably can't see the fine print. It said, the line of the letter that I drafted said, We're very proud of what we've done here at Canary Wharf, but we can strive to do more. And Sir George, ever the leadership maestro, crossed out the word can and wrote will. We will strive to do more. And that's been my almost my after-dinner speech ever since, because I think that's such an inspiring bit of leadership to give to his head of sustainability the endorsement to go out and do this and to actually push as hard as we can and encourage and motivate the business and our supply chain to get involved as well is masterstroke. But I thought I'd share that story with you today. It kind of sums up the leadership and the way that we do things at Canary Wharf. We take absolute ownership of everything that we do there. And it's now coming through into the way we market our new developments. The Wood Wharf development, which is the large residential expansion to the east of the wharf, it's been sort of promoted as the place for the people who are shaping London. I would say we are the people who are shaping London. Whoever is in the built environment, whoever is in construction, we are the ones that are shaping it. So it's not just about the tenants moving in. We've got to think of ourselves as being part of this change and part of this new movement going forward. And there it is. That's the vision, to inspire positive impact by creating places that are healthy, thriving, sustainable and future ready. And you guys are part of that, absolutely part of that. We couldn't do it without you. So here's what the development will look like when it's finished. We're hoping it will be sustainability made real. And we can't do it without a brilliant supply chain. And that's where we are. I'd just like to thank you all very much for your patience and listening to me talk. Thank you.